work to do. Especially on our side, we are 40 people, 2 hours each, that's 80 hours. That's a lot. You know what uptime and downtime, everything is, except the people, I don't want to also represent everybody. There are some of you that, you're going to present at tier 4. Rest of you, wherever you feel like you got a bit more important work to do, go for it. Get it done. That's my answer. There's been a lot of pressure. Is Sasan on the call?
Yeah, I'm here.
Yeah. Sasan, you can tell that, we were badgered for months. Why don't we do this? Why don't we continue doing this?
I've heard that as well.
Yeah.
I just wonder if, we've got a lot of tools now and stuff. I wonder if there is anything we can do to say, exactly what you said. You want the information, click on this link and tell me what,
Well, I think, Brandon is working on some of the stuff. Pablo has been working on things. I think we will consolidate what we see on the presentation into a dashboard. And then, anybody wants anytime, you don't need to wait a quarter. Go, see it real time what it is. You can slice it by day, by hour, by minutes, by years, by century. Just do it however you want.
But it's also about the whole point of the meeting is for all the leaders, stakeholders to be able to kind of, do Q&A and feedback and have some discussion, though. I guess, that's why. Yeah. And it's not just our team presenting either. That's why it's so long. Every group does it. Yeah. But it is kind of long, though. I agree.
The Q&A stuff is valuable. I mean, that's good.
Yeah. And I'm going to also attempt, this time is okay. For next quarter, I'm going to break it down. I want each team to present their own. We're going to present ours, just like program management, and then we just drop off. And ours, if I have my way, ours will not be more than, 10 to 12 sheets. The one pager, here is the metrics. And maybe narrative, if something went south or north, we can tell why. And then, we go on with it. It used to be 3 hours.
I know.
You're kidding me? You're lucky I shrunk it to 2 hours.
No, but I think 2 hours is going to even be cutting it close. Alex, me, you, and Anoop, and Patrick and Pablo probably have to review it, but we have almost 70 pages, and then the other teams have, or 70 slides, and then the other teams have, what's it called? Probably 50 or 60. So it's for 2 hours for that much. We do have to slim that down.
Yeah.
Yeah, so when was the last time you concentrated on something for 2 hours?
No, but
I don't know, and it was for me.
Yeah. So, but good feedback. Trust me, I sympathize and empathize. That is my take on it. But again, being devil's advocate, we don't have good dashboard. We can point to people. So this is why if you hear me today, I have decided not to moan and complain about it. You know where I stand. And if I don't see dashboards, I'm going to subject everybody next quarter to 4 hours of that meeting. So you figure it out. And also it takes a lot of time. You know how many meetings we have had behind the scene to get these prepared? You think this is the last thing I have on my plate to do? Trust me, no, I got a lot more important work to do than, spending every day on ops review with Sasan. All of us, we are pretty much, we are short of time. But nevertheless, I think team is doing generally really great. It's good to, close about it as well. And we get a lot of work done. Actually, look at this. Yeah,
I was just going to say, Alex, that, you're saying the amount of time and the meetings that go into preparing for this. You think across all of the parts of the company that are presenting at this, they're investing so much time in a one-off presentation. If they just invested that time in building dashboards and automations, they would probably make a lot of progress on that, right? And then maybe you could get away with a Q&A.
I told you I told you I have decided today not to, comment about it. So that is one of my kind of, probably I'm sensitive about that subject, but you guys know where I am. But, the sooner we get something at least, and I think this is a good, we have the KPIs and metrics from this meeting. Once we get done, I think each of you, who owns what metrics anyways. convert those metrics that we present in PowerPoint to actual dashboard, right? Cool. Good input. How are you doing, Ryan? Ryan has been pretty sick.
Not too bad. I'm getting better. Feeling better each day.
Yeah.
You sound
If you
great.
need to drop off, you're not feeling well, just feel free, you don't need to stick around. You can go work on KPIs and metrics.
Please, no. Well,
So who has anything interesting to share?
I could share something interesting.
Go for
Mainly
it.
because I I was playing around with it yesterday. I'm gonna need a second to pull it up, but basically, Alex came to me with some issues from the Atlas team, and I didn't really have any time to go and dig into it, so I just had my agent do it. Just pulling it up now. But I've recently set up a skill which I found that someone had shared around basically the idea that when you use a lot of LLMs, all you get is text, and you get a huge wall of text that you probably don't read every line. You skip over it. It's just text on a terminal or text in cursor. You don't read it. So someone came up with the idea of having these pre-built templates and snippets for HTML for slide decks or nice web pages to demonstrate any of the data or maybe a proposal or a concept or anything that you've discussed with your agent. So I was doing the Atlas investigation using Prometheus metrics and some GitLab API queries. And all of this came through in my conversations with my agent, but I thought, well,
this is a lasting.
No, go ahead.
And yeah, I just think I was thinking about this as a method of demonstrating, your sessions with agents to obviously rather than reading through a wall of text, you have still a lot of text, but at least it's structured, it's colored. You get basically a report that you could share with leadership, you could share with somebody. It's got my 2 merge requests opened here and referenced. You've got the methodology for the investigation, basically talking through what queries were done, how it pulled things together, the root causes that were found, the changes that were basically made, before and after in a somewhat diff-like fashion. And then also you get nice diagrams. These are mermaid diagrams, which is just, it's like text-based diagram definitions that get rendered. And then a brief explainer of the various bits. And summary is that they were doing their pipelines in a really sequential way, which basically added up the time rather than running them in parallel. And there were some other things that we've managed to do to optimize them. Again, these things are generated by LLMs. They're not perfect, but it's definitely better than the text-based view. And then I played around with this to basically, rather than going through the debugging, having it basically detail, if I was going to my team and saying, I'm proposing a new architecture, how can I visualize my ideas to my team? And you get cool diagrams like this that basically take your conversations with the LLM, your architecture decisions that you've made, and render things out. And this can sort of spark a conversation around, this obviously probably means nothing to any of you, but if you say you worked on this system, you'd probably be able to infer a lot more from these sorts of diagrams, basically talking about how they have these various different, and this is all from code, right? It's taken apart their huge YAML trees of GitLab pipelines and found the various routes that these pipelines run and depend on each other's in between the different jobs. You've got Bazel build targets and then deploys the targets, but then you have that on EKS and EKSA, other way around, sorry. And these are not dependent on each other whatsoever. They can run in parallel, but then the tests do run on both systems, EKSA and EKS. So those things have to run afterwards, and it's a nice way of sort of visualizing all of this. And this is, it's literally just some markdown with a bunch of HTML snippets attached to it, basically, and the agent pulls it all together and builds this. And I as much as I think this is cool, the coolest bit was the pulling the data from Prometheus, because, like Alex says, getting this data, if we have the data, producing a report from that data is really easy. It's trivial. We just need to get the data into Prometheus, New Relic, somewhere like that we can query.
Yeah, I think I brought up, I shared with you, so I shared with the rest of you as well. So Sakdem asked me 2 days ago at lunchtime, hey, can I have access to Gemini Enterprise? And I told him, sure. I gave it to him. 2 hours later, I had a meeting. He had gone and generated, using that bunch of dashboards and telemetry, just, which was eye-opening, from check-ins, from, defects, from some of the RCA emails out of Slack or whatever. It's just like literally, even I believe in these things, it just blow my mind, him with all this time that he had, few meetings in between, he had done in 30 minutes, something like that. Again, I think the Gen AI is not necessarily to replace people, but this literally enhances, quality of your work, right? Can you imagine actually, Josh, using this, now generate more effective automated tests, generate the code, and have an application created, you push the button, put the name of the app or, a repo, and have them, run the testing for you too, right? We have 33 people in the company for 60 developers doing the testing. I think this is here is the opportunity, right? To optimize, then you can do more work.
Yeah, I actually had Elijah from the software team come to me with a merge request that he's written for the monorepo that improves the CI output to basically give more information, and his reasoning was that LLMs currently struggle with these outputs because they can't access the exact test failures in the current outputs, and he made the rightful argument that realistically we want to be able to set the LLM off with a problem on the monorepo, for example, and say run the tests, and that means either running it locally or running CI and then checking that CI goes green and then looping around. If it goes red, you read the error messages, you fix the error messages, you go again. So, I think little things like this, finding areas where we can build an interface or make the human interface more friendly for the LLMs will definitely help with integrating these systems. Like the Prometheus thing that I talked about then, I wrote a small NCP server that basically runs on my machine and communicates using my AWS credentials to grab those things from Prometheus. But we can build those small tools for anything really. I didn't write the small tool. The AI wrote this small tool that then allows me to give the AI more capabilities. You don't even have to worry about investing too much of your time. If it's a small prototype, you just throw it together, and if it doesn't work, then no harm.
I agree. And I think with especially some of you have the review conversation as well, is no longer about showing up at work and putting 15 hours. I think the differentiator is becoming really innovation. Who are the companies that are winning today in the industry? The one that they're innovating. Look at entire software, even the security companies got creamed, in past few weeks, because they're just putting a lipstick on the same thing over and over and selling it, for money, right? And this whole Anthropic coming up with all this conversation they have, which is literally, the software industry has lost 30-40% of their value in a month. And it is so is with us. We are always being measured by how innovative you are. And keep that one in mind when we have in this year conversation. Where am I going to be? Because Gaurav and I had this conversation as well yesterday as well, right? And irony of is that, some of this doesn't take that much work. Josh and I just talked about this yesterday. And you look at the amount of content it generated, that you can have, at least if nothing, have conversation with somebody more effective rather than just talking on, some hypothetics. It is just a big differentiator, right? I mean, these guys are paying some of these Gen AI guys $10 million. They're not paying them because, they are the smartest one. No, it is about the idea they came up about. And some of them, after a few months of enjoying that work, they get their focus off of work and they focus on the money. And next thing you know, they write them a check for 10 minutes and get out of here. You're not making a difference in the organization, right? Anyways, great job, Josh. I think I have to talk to you every day from now on.
Really nice job, Josh. Actually, we used to have the interviews where you could present all these things. Probably we should have a deep dive.
Actually, we should do that. Actually, that was in my mind, that we have a show and tell just within this org, and then we have a voting, and our top three, ideas, presentation, snippets, whatever you call. I have already told Satnam, I don't want all hands on a Satnam team to be just about, talking about, what season it is, what we are celebrating. We have to celebrate these things. So I want team to come and get 5 to 10 minutes slot to show their work.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe in Satnam's meeting or something. This one or two slides, and maybe Josh can present or something.
Yeah. By the way, L7 and above, when we do the reviews and do promotions, everybody gets involved. These are the people that probably you don't talk to them more than once a year. And now they have brought up the whole idea of that, because we don't have that many, we're going to have a 10%, 10 to 15% of the company we will promote, will have promotion or 3 combined. So now even next level, Bob's team wants to each of them every quarter to have a participation. Having really, people seeing you, presenting your ideas, it makes the conversation, a lot easier, because sometimes they're who's Ravi? We don't know Ravi. You're like, well, you don't know Ravi? Here's Ravi's name. This is Ravi's LinkedIn. I shared some of your LinkedIn's even, with Abram was in sound calibration and Aaron was another one. And also, of course, we know what the contribution work you guys do, it makes it a lot easier. As a matter of fact, to be totally transparent, initially I was, I had proposed Ravi for promotion. Actually, let's congratulate Ravi. Ravi just was promoted as well. And I was presenting everybody's, accomplishment impact. And this is where, I said, I know we have a limited number of people we can promote, and, we have reached that number. But literally, Abram brought up that Ravi does all this work, 500 databases between, 2 regions, and no other DBAs, and that's why they're like, promote him. And, it just made so easy. Even we were like, I proposed, 6 or 7 people, but the cut line wasn't really meeting all those proposed promotions. But they literally, they're like, Ravi should be promoted. Don't wait until mid-year. And that is kind of, what I mean, when we have data that we say what the impacts on organization, that makes a big difference. Sorry, I know somebody has their hands on, but who else had their hands on?
Yeah, I'd like to share something, Alex, for the team.
Sure.
Okay, let me share this. Okay.
Danny actually is not real. Danny is AI. So just to keep in mind, I think he has morphed himself to an AI. I cannot tell where is the real Danny versus the AI Danny.
Is it showing my slide?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. I'd like to promote a few people in terms of psychologically. So
that's okay.
I know that really a lot of people put a lot of work. I just want to do a shout out to the people that collaborate with me the last few months, behind the scene. The work may not be seen, but it's a lot of preparation, to get this whole thing roll out. Definitely first is in no particular order. I just put there. I had this slide made, I don't know, a month ago, but it was after you could make it. So the first one is Andrew. He participated and in the not only the POC, but also started the first Ruly incident management on the when I was away in Taiwan. So I think that was really great that Andrew started out in not only POC, and he started the Slack. So that was the first thing. It's like the first step on the moon. So thank you, Andrew, for doing that. Amaresh also did POC participation. He not only did incident management, he also did the on-call. So all these, the POC took a lot of time, right? It was not on your regular program. You took the time to do it, and for the sake of the team and Grill, really appreciate that. And Christopher Topher, lots of phone integration, a background, make the app work, make the SSO, a lot of behind the scene work on the plumbing. That's really hard to see, but I want to call that out. Another important things. The next on list is Dan G. Dan was in the POC participation. He did on-call app setup. And of course, I think Dan is almost done with the training guide, just to sure have another documentation. And Dan also did extensive testing on the Ruly on-call, from the PagerDuty to the Ruly on-call functionality. The next person I want to thank is another Daniel Martin. Daniel Martin did the mounting setup integration from the PagerDuty migration from Ruly, a New Relic to Ruly. And that it just got completed last week. This is a huge win. We can get out of the PagerDuty for our team. And we have, I think we're the first one in the company that's on Ruly on-call platform. And Dan will share some information later after this as well. I want him to call out the Ruly benefits, again, for everybody's awareness. Johnny, another huge handyman I have on the Google Doc, Zoom, Meet integration. Everything's integrated. One step, you could get in Zoom, get in Google Meet, and Google Docs. So why Google Docs or Confluence important? Because you can quickly recall the playbooks without trying to hunting for it. I haven't set that up yet, so I have the next step to make that integration. So if you put a particular keyword, that playbook will show up. So you don't need to hunt for it. So this will expedite the triage time, expedite information sharing. So there's a lot of beautiful integration. I just haven't got to it yet, but the plumbing is there. Another person, admin that I want to call out is Joey, and unfortunately Matthew, I think he's still on leave right now. Yep. So they did the Slack and Confluent integration. I mean, Slack was the number one beauty thing. So that was the number one plumbing. Joey took a lot of time on that one. And all these person were always there when I need them. And finally, saving the last person now is Wilson. Wilson did the SSO, Okta integration, ensure there's a smooth, secure control going from all these apps back and forth. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. These are the key things. If I miss anyone, my apologies, but these are shout out. So everything, the Ruly migration, the plumbing has been done on the right side. Training, New Relic to Ruly migration, documentation, the key one are there. And I think we're officially live on this one, Alex, just let you know. I know you know already.
So you're not going to talk about it, but you know. And this is an example. This is a teamwork, right? Whatever we do, we all depend on each other. And having that team come together, and this is kind of big innovation. I know that I brought this one again to be transparent with some of you and with Satnam as well, Satnam's organization. My take is that there is this huge resistance to any change. And, if as an organization, we always say, no, it's hard to move from New Relic. It's hard from PagerDuty. It's hard from Bezel. And, Vanadium, we will never, ever be successful as an organization. We need to kind of, even something is working, we can get a tool that incrementally changes and innovates, makes us more efficient. We should just, have an open mind to give it a try, right? Again, thank you. You should get a shout out to yourselves as well. Yeah, this is what we want to do. We want to not only celebrate the wins internally, but then also we take it outside and brag about it.
Yeah. So I just wanted, these guys are amazing.
Thank you, Danny.
Okay. I want to kind of highlight a little couple of benefits that I want to call this out because not a lot of people will do it. Not a lot of people remember. Dan Daniel has some. I would like him to give some feedback on these little benefit from Ruli. Daniel, you're here. Yes.
Yes, I can speak to this slide.
Okay, please.
So Ruli automatically manages our IT infra on call in Slack now, which is awesome. It'll match up to whoever the primary is. It manages criticality as well. So something that I thought was pretty cool is we can send everything to Rootly, and it can actually, based on fields in the JSON that it's accepting, it can route it to critical or non-critical workflows for us, as opposed to us having like 4 or 5 different notification channels going through Slack, going through PagerDuty, different Slack channels. Rootly can be our one source of configuration for all of that as it goes through, which is pretty awesome. And then the other thing is Rootly integration for our incidents is going to the same channel for IT infrastructure that we've always used for the IT schedule. But now we get to start up based off of any of those alerts. We can start up incidents or, different Slack channels off of that to start working together to fix problems. And it's been great so far. It was a little noisy the first week we moved over, but it's looking a lot better now. And there's ways to tell what's critical, what isn't. And we're still making improvements, but it looks good.
Thank you, Daniel.
Thank you.
I have a quick question.
Go ahead, please.
I just wondered if this looks really cool, and it's nice to see like everyone kind of coming together for one thing. Just wondered if you could share the repos of where we've configured it and everything. Are we using the Terraform provider to configure this, or is there some other config thing?
From the IT side of things, I did it in the Rootly console. So it's not in a repo anywhere.
Oh, okay, cool. And what about the rest of the Rootly config is in code somewhere, or have I?
Yeah, why don't we do this for, let's set up next week, an hour on this. Actually, DevOps needs to come. I think DevOps probably hasn't even got it, and Dan Martin, probably since you had a head start, maybe you can set up a time with Daniel and the DevOps team to get them, onboarded as well if they haven't.
Sure.
I think I'm on board. I think I got I definitely got an email and I saw the console and stuff.
Yeah. Yes, since Daniel has done it.
We're already using On Call through Rootly, so it's switched from PagerDuty to Rootly. I think largely that was Dan Gustafson that set up the DevOps side.
I'm curious. I don't know if anyone can answer this because we have other teams that were hooked up to PagerDuty across like different systems, outside of IT. Is this migration already happened for those teams, or is this something that is being?
So this is what I was saying. Even though we had communicate this for months, last minute when we told them they need to migrate, we are not ready. PagerDuty, doesn't work. PagerDuty works better for us. They haven't seen how the Rootly works. And I was anticipating, I've been here for 2 years. I didn't just show up at Grail. I know how people are. My intention was we take the dive, we are the first mover on the stuff. And then show that this works better, makes a difference, and then have the team. So we will have PagerDuty for rest of the organization for another year. We didn't renew it 3 years, we did 1 year. And then we will handhold them. And you're going to see some changes in the company as well. So one of the ideas driving it, we have too many pockets of the same work getting done in different places. So we are working throughout this year, identify where is it duplicate work. We are going to kind of, consolidate them. If there is 5 other teams that they are doing what SRE does here, they're going to be one organization. If there is, 5 teams that are doing the DevOps work in the company, they're going to be one organization. The idea is that, we get economies of scale, we get the tooling, integrated, for all teams the same way, because the company just had a lot of money, a lot of people, they didn't have to worry about anything. And that habit a lot of people haven't lost that habit yet. Everybody wants to build their own fiefdom. So the first part of it, I think, started with the program management and product management. You will hear some announcement coming up this week. There is this concept of project manager, product manager assigned to each team having their own. They're all going to be part of centralized pool of program project management, product management. So stay tuned. As our team, we are right now starting to work very closely with John Nail and Mitch, but the goal is that, either matrix them to us or, move them into one organization. Lab SRE. SRE is SRE, doesn't really matter whether you do lab, we do applications or service, or engineering partners and lab operation, which is duplicate of the work we do. I'm not a big in building a fiefdom, but I've said as long as, they have a hardline matrix to us or vice versa. We already work with John Nail and Lab NJobs pretty closely anyways, but we're going to continue being one organization. So if you thought the change is over, don't hold your breath. It will be coming more and more changes. And this is why, because here, after 4 months of talking about Satnam's reports that we are moving to Rootly, and last minute they're like, we are not ready for it. We're like, okay, you are not. We are going to be using it within my team, and we're going to extend this as all Satnam's team. And eventually, once we prove that it's working, we will just have the data to say people need to move this infrastructure. So as with Grafana monitoring the same way. When we brought up the concept of Grafana, Tristan says, we are not ready. We have a bunch of stuff in New Relic. We cannot move to it. Why do you want to have two things? I said, that's okay. Satnam already, in principle, has agreed for us to, anything we bring up as an innovation, we move ourselves and Satnam's team first. And then, for a year, immersion in those technologies, then we bring the rest of the organization along. Okay, who has...
I have more.
Yeah.
Okay.
Benny, before you carry on, I just need to ask something. So
Sure.
Just to be clear, the Rootly config, is it in code anywhere, or is it configured directly in Rootly?
It is configured directly in Rootly. No, I don't think
we should. I think.
Is there a way to export the config so that
you can do that. I think we should definitely be looking into the Terraform provider for Rootly, and have this integrated with CI and stuff.
Yeah.
Especially if we want to productionize it and have teams move across. You don't want to be messing around in the console when there's 10, 20 teams.
Why don't we bring the
provider
Rootly
the provider looks fairly mature, and it has import functions and stuff. So you should be able to import your current config into a Terraform config, and then you'll be they'll be much easier to maintain going forward.
Daniel,
this calls for a standard module for integration, so that everybody can simply import that standard one and implement.
Yeah, that's what we used to have for PagerDuty. So we used to just have a module that you could add to your
But Rootly has a Terraform provider anyways, right?
Rootly has a Terraform provider.
Yeah, we can even export the current config and we can work around that as a standard model.
Okay, so as phase 2, okay, I'll set up it like Alex saying that let's have a Rootly person and we can export the extended functionality. Is that okay? I'll set up a...
If you want me to give you a hand, just let me know.
Yeah, I will.
Why don't we do this? My suggestion is, this team is pretty technical, they can read the document, what price they can sell. So why don't you guys look at, the automation aspect. That this was a POC, of course, we don't want to, do too much of work. But yeah, look at the provider and see if you can import, your stuff from PagerDuty you have or other stuff, to see how it is. But they have really good engineering support. They're really hungry. This organization wants to really help along the way the journey of the customer to the platform. Danny can share with you the contacts as well. If you run into any hiccups, just ping them and they can help us.
Yeah, the provider looks super well maintained, so should be pretty easy to do.
Okay.
Especially
the big advantage would be managing the users, particularly like which groups they're in, users and assignments to projects and those kind of things. That I assume.
By the look of it, every single thing you configure in the console, you should be able to configure there.
That's a modern tool. That was my other thing. I saw this guys in one of the Google meetups. They were presenting, and I saw Google SRE team had moved to it. And they use quite a bit of Google Gemini to kind of with Rootly to get a lot of their. I'm sure you can imagine Google SRE team is huge, and I'm like, okay, if it works with Google with the complexity, it should be working for us. And then I brought it up, and of course Danny did a great job to looking at all aspects of it. So now it is. We have paid for it. Our team is going to use it, and we will gradually move. Sis and Fra and Test and rest of the teams to this as well.
That's a good point Dan just raised. We actually had to stop using it in IT, Terraform to manage PagerDuty. Because the thing is teams just keep messing with things anyway, and then it just becomes a drift.
So I guess what we need to do then, it's kind of like reminiscent of the tagging problem, right? It's like, no one tagged their stuff, so we're just going to tag it for them. But what we actually need to do is fix the culture so that people, they might not want to, but.
So I have brought it up. If I have to go get from Satnam, literally, law of the land. I really don't want. If there isn't a proper tagging we have defined, I don't want them to deploy the workload. Period. With the config or policy or whatever. We have to just tell that, you need to have minimum these 5 tags. You don't have it. And if they decide to put crappy tags into it, let it be, because then they're going to suffer, because a lot of stuff is just going to happen to begin, right? But if you can, I know Ryan, you and Patrick maybe collaborate. I don't want especially in production, but all the workloads, we should just have bare minimum tags that have to be provided. If they don't, then we're not going to kind of do the work for them. For existing ones, we can do it, but that's not going to be a full picture. But anytime we do new deployment, we should enforce that our tags exist in new deployment. If it doesn't, don't allow the deployment based on the policy.
I know Ryan and Michelle Q are working on tagging from the security side. So we should sync with them and make sure we're doing all the right things.
Cool. Okay.
Let me continue.
This was a great update, Danny. Let me see if anybody else anything to come back, because in minutes, I'm sure some other people have some stuff to share.
Yeah, I want to just give a shout out to Amaresh, Dan Martin, and Ben P. We had issues with the billing team on their Talkdesk implementation on AWS Workspace. Amaresh and Dan led that charge on putting it in our Mesa Horizon environment. So Amaresh is giving me a demo today, and then I am going to do the demo, do a pilot program with one of the billing members tomorrow, and then we'll get feedback, and then if it works out, we'll expand to the rest of the team. So thanks.
I agree. Another great work. Teamwork. People work across the team. This was a great. I don't know how did we run the business without this the old way. Thank you, everyone.
And Amaresh, also both Amaresh and Dan. Not having a network like dedicated network engineers, so being resourceful, using voice, using Armature, and just being creative on that end. Also Boyce as well. Thanks for stepping in and filling in Jackson's shoes while we're still looking for another network engineer. So thanks everyone for being resourceful.
Thank you, Sam. Amaresh? Or
Thank you, Sasan. Thank you, Danny, for that acknowledgement. And yes, so since Hassan already addressed one of my POC, so I'm addressing my second POC with AWS. So as of today, we have an official POC set up for the lab in AWS. So they have started the testing with the infrastructure running from AWS to see how our improvements showing up and comparing with the on-premises infrastructure. So we have a test work cell set up at AWS today, and it's hand off to engineering ops and automation team to work on their testing and get back to us with their feedback.
Awesome. Sasan, I want the ops, review all of this to be captured. This is a really great work. We
can. I think Anoop and I, at the end of our infrastructure section, we're putting like wins that we've had. So that's something we're gonna add. We're gonna put all these as well.
Awesome.
And then I know,
the EVS has been also another interesting project. If it works, very great. But even for DR purposes, I think should serve us. And Emresh, from the performance of EVS, I definitely have talked to Aruba. I want to introduce a WAN accelerator as well, temporarily, to see if that can improve the latency and that sort of stuff as well. Let's see, if that helps without the direct connect, because with direct connect, it requires to go to a colo. And although, if you build a second data center, I can have direct connect to terminate in colo and then have a fiber within colo and on-prem, but it's just too much complexity. I want to avoid it. Ravi?
Yeah, this is an ongoing project, but I just wanted to bring it up into everybody's light, is that EMPI, typically almost Gaurav has been handling it significantly almost on that part, because it is as interesting as painting a wall or taking the tooth out. It is extremely painful to work with the vendor because we are so crippled because they will be accessing the production data. So Gaurav went and found out, how we can actually do this integration with Island browser, and we can give the access and creating the account. And I think he has been spearheading the whole thing. So I just wanted to shout out.
Yeah, that again, this is why the team does so much work, and it just, is insane. I mean, again, Gaurav, you and team working on this whole MPI, Rhapsody, it just is amazing work.
Why are we all sitting on chairs now? What is this? Who's done this?
I don't know. Immersive mode? I was like, what?
I reckon it's Danny. My money's on Danny. What are you doing, Danny?
I have no idea. I don't know. I just
into some AI.
You turned into immersive mode.
I don't know. I thought that was cool.
It's like the Mystery Science Theater or something.
I think Zoom is copying Team came with this, then Team is copying, Google Meet copies, WebEx. It's just it is great that everybody copies everybody.
And the same guys must be moving from one company to other, copying the same ideas.
Gaurav?
Yeah, I just wanted to mention about one gap, I think, which is around process where, if someone requests to be added to an environment for specific teams like commercial or lab, I think it should be redirected to, first of all, we should have a ticket, ask them to create a ticket so that it's trackable, because I think there are so many audit and user access reviews say, I have to handle for commercial and maybe Patrick might be doing it for lab. So I think when we do the user access review, we get to know that there are few users who got added. Then we kind of try to find the tickets. At times there are no ticket. At times, yesterday I noticed that a developer commercial was added to our DevOps AWS DevOps group. Now this gives that developer access to so many production accounts, which is not, it should not be done. So I think that is something that if you are not aware of the environment or the group that people should be added to, maybe just reach out to the DevOps or SRE guys who are owning that project. So that way, we'll have a track of who was added, and it's better for the auditability when we create user access reviews or any types of audit, because it keeps on increasing the amount of audit that we are doing. So I think we want to ensure that we follow the standard process there.
Yeah, Gaurav brought this up last week, I think, with me, and for Teleport specifically. I think this is a really great thing to follow. I know it creates a little bit extra work, but yes, there should be a ticket. There should be an approval from somebody that says, yes, this person can access this set of things in Teleport. But I think overall, what I agree completely with Gaurav saying is that are we tracking this? And it should be tracked. And I guess the only question I would have is the PENG Jira the best place for this? And if it is, great.
I request everyone for the to create a ticket in platform engineering so that we have it on our board and we know that who is providing what access here.
Great. So there are a few other things that are in process. I know, Joel, probably an update on Jira will be great. We are moving to Jira Cloud. I know we had a hiccup. That will be great. Share with team. Dan, I know we have a Tableau migration. It will be, I know that's still waiting on some stuff. It will be good to talk about where we are with it. Joe is working on all this BXDS stuff with research. Is a great, innovation for research as well. And one of the reasons I want you guys to talk about it, you can see who wants to help out in an interesting project. And I think from the capacity point of view, I know we are busy, but I do like to see 20-25% of you doing something that someone else is working on. Not only it gives us a good backup, but also, it's an interesting project. Why not, share this with the rest of the team as well, right? We cannot be single threaded. I know Ben is working on a bunch of interesting stuff. Some of you, I know you are shy or introverted, but please, the stuff you are working with, bring it up, share it with the team as well. Wilson, you haven't told us how was the ski trip in Japan. But we are glad that you didn't get stuck in the avalanche or something like that. You came back in one piece. Welcome back.
Thank you.
So who's next?
Alex, can I give me 2 more minutes? I want to share something.
Topher, what have you been up to?
Let's see.
Did you win the championship?
No, that's next week.
Oh, okay.
We'll be at Dice Tower West and the big board game conference in Las Vegas. So
we're going to be rooting for you. So give us the link.
I don't think it's an even better live stream, but we play a lot of new games, and we're getting this new game called Roz, which is like we're going to learn the dance as well. It's an Indian dance. Oh. And it's about putting dice together and making love matches. So you have to look it up and see. I think it looks kind of cool. Otherwise, there's all the Global Protect stuff and Orascape stuff. And now I'm just kind of working on playing that and creating some fun new dashboards.
By the way, Orascape again has started, giving a headache to me. Today when I was trying to start this meeting to my calendar, it wasn't even letting me open my calendar until I stopped it. Then everything popped out. I don't know if you're out of it, but since Ryan, you are here, yesterday I talked to Avi. Avi was asking maybe we should look for some alternatives as well. I mean, this was a cheap investment. We can also get the money back if this is not working out. So I think if we can pick up the discussion with, I brought up that CrowdStrike has a similar solution, so is Palo Alto's AIRS, because he was telling me that Fortinet has a solution as well. I said, yeah, we have worked with Fortinet, but since our other existing vendors, they have the solution and we don't have to do much of a deployment, we can enable it in CrowdStrike. That we probably path of least resistance. But let's talk about offline.
And I do have the latest version installed on my computer, and I haven't.
Did you deploy the latest one on mine?
Yeah, I'll push it to yours as well.
Okay, cool. Let me see what version I am about. I'm in 2.2.4.2. I don't think that's the latest.
There's .8 now.
Okay, yeah, I'm in 2.2.4.2, so I'm not in the latest one.
Okay. I'll deploy it I'll be there in like 30 minutes.
Okay, cool. Anyway, so be prepared to share your stuff. And again, I brought up Topher, competition, Wilson, ski. Please make sure the work is really busy. Make sure you take time off and kind of, have some R&R either by yourself, most likely, because I normally take vacation by myself because the vacation is from home, family, and work. But take some time off as well with or without your family as well to kind of chill. And also, it'd be really great that if all of you guys have camera, I don't know, should I put the rule of thumb as ground rule is you have to be in the camera because some of us, we don't see each other. This is one of rare opportunities. Don't worry about the haircut. We are not judging here. It's not a beauty contest, nothing, And also, be on whatever you want. Just be close. Don't worry about there's a hoodie, tank top, whatever it is. So.
Tank top. Who's got a tank top on? Come on, Pablo. Get your camera on.
All safe.
Alex, can you give me 1 minute and Sasan 1 minute, then we can close it up?
Sure.
Okay. So, I've been here 7 months. One of the things I kind of struggle is trying to figure out where things are, find things like that. And I realized we don't have a team site, right? We have nothing in one place. We should have one team site with one URL so it's easy to remember. So I look into what we have. We have sites. It's not a tool we already paid for it. So I just built this framework site. This is our preliminary text here. I put all the team here. These are all the shells right now, all right? So these are the things we can build in going for a few days. I already built mine out here. So I have a little mission statement. I have the KPI here from the weekly instant count. I have the number of instant by quarter. So I am going to keep building this KPI as I have time. I remember one night Alex say, if we build one KPI a week, we have 26 KPI in a year, right? Something like that. So I am going to build KPI here. Everything's going to be here on Incident. I am going to have an RCA drive there, templates, other KPIs. I'm going to have training. So this is going to be my little bit home where all the information about Incident will be here. And I will build codes change management, and I'm going to reach out to each of you to fill this out. Okay. So Alex, do you want to add anything to this? That's kind of.
This is so. I know that this might sound, circa, 2000. Every team had a website, that sort of stuff, but it is really true. If we have these KPIs for each team, then we don't have to spend a lot of time in this quarterly stuff. It is right here. And also, a lot of people, as I said, I don't know who Drew is. What do you mean? Drew sits next to you. Oh, you mean Andrew? So knowing that who is in the team, what we do, and some of the KPIs, it really gives us visibility. Like today, you don't know what any company unless they have a website, right? You don't know what they don't have a LinkedIn. And think about it, internal LinkedIn. As a matter of fact, if you wanted, in your team, even just use some of the website, they have team and then they have a LinkedIn, snippet. So you click on it, feel free. If you think that your LinkedIn profile you have describes who you are, let's say if people are curious, you go to a meeting, maybe you don't know what Joe's background is. It will be good to say, hey, this is my career journey. I started, in Lululemon, and then I worked at Starbucks, and then I worked my way to vibe coding, and now I run, database infrastructure at Grail. Be it, who cares? But, at least people know where you come from, because career journey and a life journey tells a lot about somebody. And I do wide brush of resume. You will be surprised. I did resume. If I say somebody has worked in 2 companies, they have done the same thing. I'm like, no. I look at a lot of, multi-industry experience, different tooling, different kind of responsibilities with each companies. That tells you that people have a lot more flexibility in moving to different things to begin with, right? Sorry, and on that note, we are hiring 2 network engineers, one in RTP and L6 and L7, L8 in MPK. And in a final phase, I'm going to have just all of you kind of meet, in a group chat, just, ask any questions you like and let them know so, if they like us as a team, not just as me and Ryan and Patrick interviewing them. So we prepared maybe some questions when it comes to it, especially if it's dear and near to you from a network engineer perspective. We have 4 hires. Unfortunately, Alex Nguyen is no longer with us. You guys probably know by now.
At least Wednesday, given that there is no commute to work, at least.
Oh, yeah.
I get to do this on Wednesday. So.
Let's see. I don't even know what this meeting's about. I just kind of showed up.
Hey, Stephanie. I think Stephanie can give a quick intro.
Hello. I'm not sure either.
Okay.
It's me.
Like, I
it's
think I
me.
have the general understanding.
Yeah, I will. Can you guys hear me? Can you guys hear me?
We can hear you.
Okay. Hello. Sorry, I ran a bit late. Let me just pull the slide deck up a second. Okay, do you guys see my screen?
Yeah.
Okay, hold on a second. Let me see. Once you get you guys here, I can see this. John, John, do you know Mitch will be joining, by the way?
Yeah, he should be.
Yeah, let's go. Let's give him.
This is during the lunch hour, so.
Yeah, he knows about this. I think Mitch will have a good insight on this. But if not, we can start 1 minute. Let's just get my thing ready. Where is the thing? Oh, there you guys are. Trying to find out my Zoom stuff. Stephanie, you remember me, right?
Yeah.
Okay. A little bit of context. Who else? Melissa's here. Okay. So I work under Alex and Abby, and I manage the IT change management process. And you see me run those change. I think sometimes you drop in, I think 1 or 2 times. So there's been some new developments. So the reason I brought you in is Mitch asked me to, suggest me to have you involved and to provide us some guidance. That's what this is meeting about. And if Mitch is not going to be here, I'll just go start in like 1 or 2 minutes.
I'm here.
You just have to say Mitch 2 more times and, he's already appearing. He'll just appear faster, maybe.
That's right.
Okay.
Like whatever.
And that's the content of this meeting.
That's the magic word. You just have to keep saying it.
Yeah, I think that works. Mitch just pop up in one of those beautiful conference rooms. He shows up.
Yeah, it's the scramble today. How are y'all?
Yep. So Mitch, I just gave a little context, who I am to Stephanie, things like that. So that's over here, and I prepared some slides so I can help me focus on why we're here. So I would just go and start, okay? So, I want to give a kind of TLDR current process is how do we change management. The IT infrastructure, configuration change are, they're currently managed by Jira, right? Change that touch the environment, they really require a extensive approval process. Sometimes there's actually 7. We have director, we have Alex, we have security, we have quality. From the lab side, we have John, we have Du, and we have Jay. All right. And that's just 2 contexts. Second thing is we currently don't have a dedicated test environment for infrastructure, right? So basically that means the change are pretty much done the production and directly. And sometimes these incidents happen, things breaks, right? So that's kind of what's driving this. We have result of incidents. And the fourth factor is the risk rating. In the tickets, it's pretty much subjective, right? Based on the SME's own expertise, experience, they make the call, low, meaning high. And sometimes the rating's not even there. So we have some inconsistency in the ticket. So that's kind of the four current process in the IT change management. Stephanie, I want to kind of let you know. Everybody here, Vanessa as well, everybody here, Amresh, John, and Mitch, they know about this, but this is just for context purpose. Okay, so that's the context. So right now, we have four main issues right now. Because there's some recent outage, and I'm just keeping really high level, our main customer, the final customer, Jay, basically don't want to approve any changes right now until, due to some current issue, I'm not just naming one right now, there was a new rule change that caused flaw delay, and he doesn't want to do any change approval until we have a solid process in place. So what that means is Jay wants pretty much a regular SDLC, testing the environment, a strict documentation, rollback plan to be in place before approving the tickets. Now, naturally, we still don't have the testing environment right now. We're working on it right now. But as a result, things of a change management ticket has been grounded. And of course, I mentioned the risk assessment, engineer to provide their own rating, risk assessment, and there's no objective metrics to define no, medium, and high. And of course, the fourth, I also mentioned earlier, is we have inconsistent ticket quality. Sometimes tickets are too short, they're too technical, they're too much technical jargons, or simply they don't have verification process, they don't have downstream, upstream reviews. Okay, so these are the four main issues. I'm going to take a pause to see John or Mitch have anything else to add in terms of key issues.
Yeah, I think the main thing that actually caused this to happen was the final straw was the Glyptodon issue of like a bunch of people being removed.
Yeah.
Other than that,
It's the user access reviews and their touch points. And so like the scope of IT, SOP, whatever it is for the qualification is comparatively small, but how do we deal with the rest of the change management? Do we need to increase the scope of that document to have this? So we got a request to go through a critical systems list. It's still in flight to my understanding, but basically going through the BSI to say like, what can we, touch without involving the lab basically, or what could potentially impact lab processing, startup, operation, whatever it might be.
And for a lot of this stuff, it's almost every change is going to have some downstream effect on the lab, just because that's the nature of infrastructure.
Melissa, I see you have your hands up. You got to unmute first.
So when you said Jira-based change control, you are talking about the JSM ticketing, or are you talking about the software validated change management ticket process?
Go ahead, John or Mitch.
No, it's not through JSM. It's through the on-prem Jira using the SDLC rec form workflow.
Except for, I don't think it had been the rec form until just recently.
Oh, okay. All right.
I think a lot of IT go through JSM is my understanding. I don't think they have evolved into using the validated workflow. Rec form would still be a smaller, that shouldn't be used for change control actually. Rec form is for unregulated, unplanned, unstandardized changes, Mitch, like some PDCs and things like that. Okay, I think I have my answer. Stephanie?
Yeah, so I have seen tickets go through the validated Jira instance. And we actually had a meeting with Anoop and Alex and the rest of the software quality team yesterday around the inconsistent tickets and the quality of the tickets. So I'm not sure Danny and team here got a chance to connect with Alex.
Alex D.
Yeah.
Yep.
We did have action items from that meeting.
Oh, okay. He was invited to this meeting, but unfortunately he couldn't attend. So I can resync with him and update him the next step when we finish this meeting.
Okay.
Melissa?
I think that's fine. Now, I think let's, first of all, thanks for characterizing the problem succinctly and also clearly. I think any process for change, we will have to be iterative. Like we can't just make like one thing and then every problem gets solved. Unfortunately, there is no magic wand like that. So, and a lot of things that you have already kind of laid out has some, for especially like for risk assessments to be objective requires a whole bunch of things. I mean, subjective is still fine if some of the other problems are resolved or taken care of. So can we first, I mean, because you characterize J is not allowing changes until we have a defined process. So can we first define for this meeting what will be a definition of done or victory? What can we say this is like a middle ground starting point, and then we can mature, something like that.
Sure.
Do you have it, or should we formulate it together?
I have it. I only have 2 more slides, then we can start tackle that. Just to give you everybody the context, you and Stephanie. And there's one last thing that Jay had asked for is we don't have a complete critical system inventory to serve as one of the data point, right? So this one we're working on with John and Mitch, and we've been doing this for 2 weeks. And this is something that Jay had asked for 2 weeks ago in the MSAT meeting. So this is in progress right now.
Gotta finish this, but yeah.
Yep. So kind of what Melissa mentioned. So what we need right now, the next step in your guidance is on documentation, about ticket documentation, what's the template, which I already have a proposed with Mitch's input and John's input. That's going to be a starting point. The second thing is the risks. How are we going to do that? We need to define a proper risk-based process right now. Because right now these risks is being done by the engineers. I don't think that seems like there's a conflict of interest. Again, that's kind of what I feel, right? If you do your own change, you should not be assessing your own risks, right? That's one problem. Second, there's no guideline as based on what. So we don't have that documentation there right now. So that's a second weak point. And the third thing Mitch brought up is, I know, Stephanie, you've been driving this CSA compliance. How do we integrate that in the same time, right? To keep that in mind. And the fourth thing is kind of run the whole thing is how do we resume the flight so Jay is comfortable to approve the ticket. So these are the 4 things kind of tied up in this what you mentioned. Is one, the ticket quality. The second is the risk. I think if we have those 2 in place, Jay should be comfortable, but I want to leave that final decision to Mitch and John to see anything else that he would be more comfortable.
The main thing that I got from Jay, what he wants before he starts signing off again, is that he wants end user testing.
Yes.
And I know that we don't have a development environment right now, but basically what he wants is that like we actually have testing done in MPK or in the development environments that are not, if possible, in the development environments that are not prod and RTP, if that particular type of change is allowed. So like obviously we can't do something for domain controllers for the dev environment for RTP and not do it for prod. But for some of the things we could do testing, and he specifically wants end user testing and that to be linked, like a completion of that be linked to the ticket that he's approving.
Okay. Melissa, open for your input now, guidance.
Okay, sorry, I don't know if I think I had my hand up for from the previous one, sorry.
Okay. So that's my quick slide. So I like to kind of open the floor to see, to seek a guidance from Stephanie and Melissa is how can we move this forward so Jay feel comfortable. Again, we do have the ticket, framework, everything, a draft. That's definitely a starting point. Now, the testing that John just mentioned, we have to figure something out,
Okay. So for the ticketing, or before you get to ticketing, because you kind of touched upon it, because IT is a very wide area at the end of the day. So the risk assessment / impact assessments, who does what, establishing that resolves undue process overhead in my view, because what I've seen happen at one time is like having 25 approvers on every change, right? And that's because we don't have that categorization. So first, can we think about, like, is there a categorization angle, Danny, that you have thought about, like lab impacting, other systems which are not lab impacting? Who are the stakeholders? Like some large buckets, like let's say if it is cloud software, for example, right, related IT changes, right, then your stakeholders would be different versus this. So is there a thought on when you're saying you do have a template around that?
Yeah, I want to, since Mitch raised his hand, I want to make sure he has his comment in before I say anything. Mitch, do you want to speak up?
You can answer that question if you'd like to, but I was going to pinpoint on the rec form is not the right ticket for this.
I agree. You should not use rec form for it.
Change, and we have to figure out what is the right ticket for this. So like we have the qual SOP is the only thing we have. It scopes in 4 to 5 systems now, right? And they're all high level. They drive you to a Viva change control when you have a high impact level from the change determination. What does everything else need to flow under?
So generally we do have the RAT tickets, which are way more defined for software related changes at this point, Mitch. But rec form is that loose ticket, and that shouldn't be what we should be using. Given you got, I think first of all, we need to figure out the change control process at this point, since there is no staging or non-production environment where ultimately there has to be a locked change, right? No matter which tool, right? Change has to be scope defined and assessed for the scope, and then it has to get through to implementation phase, and then there is some sort of testing, whatever lightweight testing that you guys are figuring out to do, and then you have deployment, the actual deployment. So that's loosely the flow. The RAT ticket could be too much of an overhead for IT right now because of the workflow, the way it is set up, works very well for software, and the template for the ticket of, because what comes in is also what are the required fields. Danny, I think you already pointed to, sometimes there is too much info, too less info, not the right kind of info, and that comes from templating. What we can do is configure a new issue type, which is IT change or something like that, and it can have fields that are specific to IT, where we can configure the change types which are IT specific. Put it through a quick validation. It doesn't take a lot to do validation. Like Joel can do it within under a day, in my view. But the categorization helps you set up who the approver lists are and how you do impact. But I will also suggest the starting point will still be a subjective impact assessment, but with the templating and things and who are doing it based on the category of change, you will get better risk assessment to start with, Danny. And when all of the BSIs and the business impact assessment exercise is all complete, we can move to the quantitative one. Like, don't aim for the quantitative risk assessment to the starting point of the change. That's just my 2 cents there.
That's good.
Okay, and Manasa, going back to your, you wanted to do like some sort of categorization with like cloud versus impacting lab, not impacting lab. And I'd like to propose like a very simple of like, there's 3 categories. So there's impacting lab immediate, impacting lab after a period of time, and then non-impacting lab.
I think from a lab-centric, you are thinking that is sufficient. I feel like when we are talking enterprise IT, there are more categories.
I'm just trying to give you the things that this is what he wants to see.
I understand that. So I think we can definitely have the lab impacting as the, one bucket, right? You're saying lab adjacent could also be a concern. So it's like one step removed or something like that. For some network changes and things like it?
It's basically anything that, no matter how many like nodes away, if it goes down and the lab, specifically V3 goes down, Jay should, when he looks at a ticket, he wants to know that is mapped, a dependency map exists, and that is a possibility, and that has been considered.
Okay, So I think in that scenario, then we can just have lab impacting as one category, and rather than all the like lab impacting is one, and there can just be like enterprise apps or something like that, right, Danny? Like which are purely finance or any other enterprising apps that don't affect lab directly. And I would then say software, like Grail developed cloud software products, right, as one category. And then we can just have other as or network in general, right, as four different, because network changes are also a different animal, if you want to think. So the reason I'm talking about this categorization is in order to do the right risk assessments and for the process not to have the overhead, we need to identify the right individuals and the immediate upstream, downstream to do the right kind of impact assessment, Danny, that you're talking about, so that the initiator of the change is not the one doing it versus the immediate impact assessment, technical impact assessment SMEs, we are able to identify based on these categories, right? We can't have one change control team. Then also it becomes very, very onerous and too far removed. So doing this categorization helps the impact assessment and approvers to be as close to the change rather than too far removed.
Okay, Stephanie, do you have Stephanie? Go ahead. The floor is yours.
Yeah, so that's similar like to what we discussed yesterday. So software quality has an action item to create a template for the changes. So that we're consistent with like the impact, risk assessment, and all those details. Separately, there's also work that will be done for building a decision tree. So I think this aligns with Manasa, your suggestion on like the categorization, right? So we wanted a decision tree to see like what are the types of changes, what types of tickets like should these be documented in, and like does it take you to the major like Viva change control process. And as part of that, we would need to identify the roles and responsibilities in a RACI matrix that for, these tickets, you would have a core team or like a minimum approval list, right? But then separately, based on that change, you would need to involve various SMEs to assess the downstream and upstream impacts.
So this process, this tooling, where is it in terms of actually, how quickly can we make this happen, I guess? Is something that we need to do this in parallel, like a long term, and then also have a short term solution so GA is comfortable? What is the guideline?
Yeah, I think it would be a short term and long term because like CSA is not going to be rolled out for another few months, right? Like it's in pilot right now. So we can have those discussions and see like how this would fit in with CSA, but the actual implementation is not going to be till, is it like August, Manasa, or I forget
one. I think earlier than that. I think it is about June end, I think.
Okay.
But again, see, the principles of CSA are essentially you have a risk-based system and, have a risk proportional process and a risk proportional rigor to your anything that you do, the SDLC. That's all the gist of CSA is, like how much validation rigor or how much, rigor in process you should have, right? That's the principle. I think as long as we can think of that, we can design a process that is in accordance to that, right? Ultimately, no guidance is picture perfect on exactly what it is. There is always room for interpretation. That's my view on it. So we whatever we are thinking is kind of in line and it's not outside. But now the question again, to the point, and also what Danny said maybe is, what is the quick change that we can do so that we can get to making changes? Right now, if every change is blocked, what is the quick short-term things that we can do and what are the long-term things that we can do based on what we are talking? I think we should be very clear in kind of segregating that.
Exactly. So then John and Mitch can take back, say, this is the plan, and at least give Jay an update. That's what I'm trying to get out right now is, do we just try to pass the current ticket process using that request form, or we should migrate to this new process, or we can do both at the same time?
So I think, in my view, you can do an alternative ticket fairly quickly, which allows to do a little bit better explanation of the change and the risk assessment. Like we don't have to wait for the best template to be available. We can borrow and do that quickly. That's my suggestion, number one. Number two, based on what I heard from John and potentially what Mitch said, and please tell me if I'm on the wrong path here. The first concern that Jay has is how is the change qualified? Who qualified? Where was it qualified? Did anybody do any qualification apart from the people doing the change?
Yep, that's right.
Okay, so we need to first figure out that answer because otherwise we will be concentrating on the wrong things to get to opening up the change control, I feel. So one is recording of the change and assessment, and we can keep iterating and make it better, over months, like, let's say 4 months or 5 months, Danny and Stephanie, like the BIA, all of those can be done parallelly. But environment-wise, do we know we have an environment for all of the changes that impact lab? Because I've heard things like we don't have a test environment and things like that.
We don't for everything, specifically infra. So if you think about making changes to domain controllers or AD or something along those lines, we don't have the equivalent of a infra. We don't have like firewalls and all that kind of stuff.
Okay. Do we have for anything, like for other change? What are the normal changes that go in that have been affecting lab? And for any of that, barring these, do we have any test environments or dev environments?
Yeah, so for the latest change that happened with Glyptodon, there was no even like ticket that happened for that. But we do have a development environment. We have lots of development VMs, and we also have MPK development VMs that we could have quote unquote tested that on.
And do you have people to do it?
So you're looking for systems to test it, or?
No, that's all right. I want to reiterate, right? We're supporting the infrastructure group and getting this up and running. We are one of the pre-approvers on whatever this process comes out. So this is not Mitch and John's project. I just want to make that clear. It's us supporting the infrastructure group and making sure that all their changes are governed. We probably will get online with whatever is affecting the VMware side of things and the things that we do own, but that's not what's in question right now. It's all of these other tertiary changes, updates to New Relic, changes to the Okta user access review groups, sometimes like AD or GPO policy updates that cause downstream impact we didn't anticipate ahead of time. So just want to make sure that's clear that we're in the supporting role for this. But yeah.
But you're also the owner for some of the changes, though.
Yeah, a small subset of those that are VM process associated, but it's mostly maintenance is what we're running. It's and occasionally the image update, but that's a defined process we have through work instruction that hopefully adheres. I'm not sure if we're using the rec form type as well, but
we are not.
Yeah.
Okay. Stephanie, you have your hand up for a while now.
Yeah, sorry.
No worries. So yeah, I did find another procedure in Viva. There is an IT change management SOP. So can we look into the scope perhaps in a follow-up session? And then I wanted to see how does this impact IT SOP 25? Because we do need to get that released this week. So we can't hold the changes.
I am 100% in alignment. First of all, whatever IT SOP 25 is going through right now, it needs to go in right now for BIMO because the changes that were already drafted and also reviewed, they have to go. Linda and Satnam are literally on top of us to get it done right now. So let's run this change control and not wait for this. If we have to re-edit or add on more changes to 25, we can do it in the next iteration. And we can get started on the draft right now after we look at that other change management procedure. And if we determine that that's not going to be there and we have to do this, let's not hold up for this decision making for this routing. Can we align on that first? And is that okay with everyone?
Yep. And one other thing that I just want to keep us focused on, there's the two core things. Jay wants the validation piece or proof of. And then the other thing is he wants everybody from IT, if you have a system and you don't know that it's lab impacting, you need to check that if it's lab impacting or not in the meantime before we have this master list of things that do impact the lab. Because
like tickets weren't made for the New Relic change, and tickets weren't made for Glyptodon, and all these other things because they thought it fell outside of like what was happening. Yeah.
Understood. So this is why I think I was suggesting doing the other ticket, like don't use the rec form. Rec form is like literally for an
database changes or whatever.
Data place thing or a very small, very defined kind of, not a recurring kind of a change related ticket, ideally. Okay.
Been told we don't intend to impact the validated workflows or structures, and it's the small potatoes kind of is what we're thinking for.
So we can have a lightweight ticket. I think, Stephanie, what you're talking about, the decision flow, the way I understood, yes, one part is we have to be clear on what doesn't go to major change control. So just because IT doesn't have something to fall to default to the major change control, which is the Viva change control process, is also not ideal at all, because that CRB is not the right CRB to make a determination on these any which way.
Yeah, no, agree. That was just reserved for things that would impact the products.
Correct. So then can we just agree on a lightweight process ticket so that we can agree on and have Joel configure it? I'm sure Joel can configure a new ticket type fairly quickly. We just need it to be validated, right? So which should add on maybe another 2 days or 3 days to that timeline. If he's working on this, right? So if he's flip-flopping on things, then yes, it will take him more time. But if he dedicates time on that, it shouldn't take more time than that. That's my view, Danny. We can talk to Joel, who is the Jira admin. Whatever is the agreed upon configuration of the ticket type, because you said you have it, right? You should just create it as a new issue type and start using that. Now, and then we do have to explain to Jay that we don't have test environments for everything, but then you should have a fallback plan, right? When things go wrong in lab, how much, like what is the quick rollback plan? That's the planning, which should also follow in the ticket, based on whoever is initiating. And as a start, so based on the categories, to the best of our knowledge, we do. But then wherever we are, and it is also education for the IT team that all changes, whatever they're doing, they have to open this ticket. It has to go through impact assessment. Only after the impact assessment is done, they can get through the implementation and roll out to production. Is also an education that has to happen, so that the instances where somebody did a change, like the Glyptodon or something was talked about here, I'm just picking on it, not picking on the people, but picking on an example. Every change will have to have this ticket, and only after the identified 5 people for the 4-5 issue types that you have, right, or the change types, can changes be done. That is whether we write a procedure or not, I think that communication has to go out. Those are the quick things you can do. Don't wait for a formal procedure to be written. It will take longer. Try to adapt to some procedure. Stephanie, can we do some sort of NCR or something like that to enable the start of the procedure?
Probably a dollar.
Sure, that's
quality record.
Yeah.
But again, what are we deviating from? If we
There
don't
is no defined procedure, is what you're saying.
What's in the one that Stephanie found? I feel like I've seen that.
There is a defined procedure. I think we just need to clarify it, right? There's quite a few things that are outdated. It's referencing ServiceNow.
So all I'm trying to say is then we are already out of compliance to whatever you're saying then. Right?
Actually, technically, yeah. If we're not doing it,
Yeah.
Exactly.
I think let's check in with the quality ops team. And I could do that.
So why don't you check on the procedure related part? I was just suggesting the practical part to getting some structured change control, so that you can get started with the changes, and then you will be bringing in where in doubt, Danny, you will anchor towards the higher, meaning you will have J or J's delegate do the weigh in just to confirm, yes, this is not impacting, and you're getting that approval. So initially there will be a little bit of overhead until we have clarity of all kinds of changes, really get into these buckets that we are thinking about.
And for the workflow and Jira, to make it easy on Joel, we can use the VM management template or work type that we currently have, and that will cover what Jay is concerned with. It has the pre-approval, post-check, and all of the routing in between for approvals.
Yeah. Anything that can be more simpler than potentially the software RAT, which has like 16 changes, you should use that.
Right. Just to add on top of it, like any particular flow, it needs to have a test environment to be tested first. Then I don't think that's where we are at this point in time, because IT does not have an official test environment. So if anything is pending on the test deployment approval, that will not happen because until we establish the test bed for it. So that will prolong the change. So my 2 cents is here is I probably feel like whatever that happened in terms of Glyptodon or New Relic, they might have considered this as a low impact without addressing what is an impact assessment on it. So probably they've been doing it for a while without any changes in place. That has been caught by this time, which is kind of a learning process. But from whatever the expectation point of view is, we can go ahead and put in a more data on the change, like what exactly is and what is going to happen. Because ideally, the change that's been routed to Jay, Mitch, and John is only lab impacting changes, at least for whatever that change was raised. So that means lab is directly or indirectly impacting it for some other means. So the impact assessment, risk assessment are already part of the rec form that we're trying to put in for the change, but it may not be having a clarity to an expectation to fulfill the approval, but that can be highlighted and enhanced based on whatever that is needed by the management. But again, like Manasa was saying, we should have an interim solution. Maybe if you think that we need to add additional tiles to the change, saying, okay, I want this kind of explanation to be there in detail, that can be addressed immediately as an interim fix. But if you think that a full software lifecycle management is what is needed here, then we need to have that footprints first to have the setup before we get into the change. So it's going to take longer than usual.
I think I partly agree with what you're saying. So, yes, we don't have the test environment. Yes, we don't have the resources, whether that is people, process, or systems to establish the SDLC. That is the true state, which we should communicate to Jay. But don't use the rec form. I'm very, very clear on that one. That's always going to be a recipe for disaster. If the VM workflow doesn't work, you can just have a 4-step workflow or a 3-step workflow, but that step should involve this impact assessment being a gating factor to all of the changes, Amresh and Danny. That's the only true way to actually have some form of change control, and then you have to establish the approvers that are 4 or 5 people that are closest to the change and not like random list of 20 people on one side. On one side, you will just have 1 or 2 people, just somebody doing it and just doing it. Both has to be resolved as the short-term thing. And that is not dependent on the test environment availability. Yes, it's ideally a good thing to have and a needed thing to do, but we should understand that we don't have it. In the absence of it, the change based on the impact assessment that has come through, the change initiator or the implementer should have what is your rollout plan clarity in the ticket once the impact assessment is done. 2, what is the rollback plan if things don't work? This will give enough confidence to Jay or any other stakeholders, like what if, when things go wrong, how will you, you have thought about it and you know what is the downtime. That is the assessment or planning that anybody wants to see in order to be able to approve. That's my view on that.
Melissa, let's take a pause. I think that makes sense. And I'd like to just, before we continue, John, Mitch, are you guys in alignment with that? What Melissa proposed? I think that makes sense.
Yeah. One thing, like with a testing environment, if we can, one of the things Jay wants is if we don't have a testing environment for something, or we can't test for something, just state that.
Okay.
That's sufficient, but make sure that is stated in the ticket, and then he's going to use that as justification to get money to buy an infra and whatever else that he needs to do.
I mean, you can kind of come up with if you can't do lower environment testing, then what, right? What do we do to kind of protect as much as possible when we do have to deploy straight to prod? But yes, we do need that justification to get this set up so that we don't have these issues, and you guys can be well assured all changes aren't going to break anything. It's the ultimate goal.
That makes sense. Amish, did you want to make a comment on that? I think that makes sense. I think I'm in line with Melissa. You summarized very precisely. We need to get away from the rec form.
Yeah, so I'm okay with any form, but all that I'm just trying to emphasize here is whatever the form you're trying to write in, make sure that that's aligned with the current setup.
Right.
If you're trying to write in something there, for example, okay, I want this to be on a test environment to be tested, that is not there. So we cannot fulfill that. So that's what I was trying to say on my statement. And I did copy pasted the tiles that we have on the current rec form, like whatever that's part of it. But yeah, if anything has to be added on top of it, yeah, I'm okay with that.
What is that called? Grant rec form? What's it called? What is that?
It's a JIRA ticket type, rec form, REQFORM. That's the one we're not supposed to be using.
Right. Yeah. Then what are we supposed to be using then? The auto routing? What was that? The other one there?
You can create a new one is my suggestion, and you do it with a new workflow, which is lightweight, which does not have the workflow which talks about testing environment or any other thing. I think John had a suggestion of a workflow because the new ticket type configuration, Danny, can be done with any workflow, right? It can be an absolutely new workflow or something that can be referred. I think John had a starting point. Let's say take a look at it, and if Amresh or you have an issue with that workflow that you cannot you cannot do one or two of those steps, remove those steps and create an adjusted workflow. It should be okay as a starting point.
Okay, that sounds like the next step then. John, I think we need to set up a follow-up to look at the detail of that form, John, that you had mentioned that was okay with Jay. I forgot the name you mentioned.
It's not the form, but it's the process, the workflow. And it's VM management issue type.
Okay.
I'll send a little screen grab in Slack about what this looks like.
Okay, can we have a breakout section on that one, John and Mitch?
Yeah.
I think that's our next step then.
Yeah. Have a working session to figure out that ticket field types and, the workflow, Danny. And also configure the issue types to the approvers also, right?
Yeah.
Like you have at least lab impacting, like we have spoken about, software, cloud software impacting, and then other as a starting point. So the other will always have a little bit more rigorous or maybe security is on one more group. Like if you know a particular change is definitely security triggered, that could be one group, right? And then we can also talk about the approvers for these 4 buckets or something. That will also be needed for you to have an effective impact assessment and, approvers.
Okay. Other than that, are there any other steps from Stephanie, or this is it for now?
Steph dropped off.
For Stephanie, I think the thing was to figure out the process. I mean, we are talking practical solution. I think Stephanie will find out the quality process. Like currently, if we are not in compliance with a set procedure, she's going to look at a procedure. If she doesn't find one, then we need to figure out the mechanism. If she finds a procedure, we are most likely not complying with that procedure, in which case she has to figure out the quality ticketing, like an NCR or something, to enable this process. So maybe give her some time. That's the outstanding task on her.
But these are 2 separate tracks. They're not dependent on each other, correct?
There is we can do this, the parallel one, but Stephanie has to figure out the quality process as well in order to greenlight this.
Okay, so that's a checkpoint before we, is that correct? Before we roll this
exactly. Exactly. In the meantime, you can work this out. You can have Joel configure the ticket. It requires a small validation. He can finish that. That will take whatever 3-4 days or 5 days or like a week. don't wait for Stephanie to complete to start this.
Yep, definitely.
But in order to finally switch from rec forms to this, that's when you wait.
Okay, I think we're clear. John, Mitch, are you guys okay on these two action item, two parallel track?
So you're going to own the action item. We'll sit down and chat through how to get that structure up and going. And I will say that we do need some answer to the critical list for the Lab Software Operating Committee meeting tomorrow.
Who's working on that list though, Mitch, then?
Yeah, it was a joint effort that spanned out from a couple, and I think we were going to try to loop in Dan Gustafsson as the BSI inventory owner because that's really where we needed to start from on that. John took on sort of dependency mapping to be able to kind of tell on the ones we already have as well as setting that structure. But I don't know, do we need to assign a name out, Danny? How are we going to finish? Another working session?
Yeah, definitely. We need to work. I think, like you say, it's a working section, right? You, me, John. But basically, I'm kind of not adding too much value other than just kind of, provide recommendation. Where do I see it, right? And I did talk to Dan. He's going to be in that meeting. I believe I've set up for Friday to continue the working session.
Okay. As long as you feel comfortable with what we have put together in terms of plan to speak to the operating committee, we can carry that activity forward.
Yeah, we can. I think, are we going to be there? We can provide an update.
Sounds good. Okay.
Sounds good.
I will set up a working session, John and Mitch, to continue that VMware issue type.
Okay. Bye.
Thanks, Melissa, for your time.
Bye.
Thank you.
No problem.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, everyone.